Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl, Honestly Nay, and here with me today is one half of the Minority Sex Report. This is
Shemeka Thorpe. So I am, as Shanae mentioned, one half of the Minority Sex Report. We are sexuality bloggers from North Carolina. The other half is Gabrielle Evans.
Shout outs to Gabby.
Yeah. And so we teach sex ed in North Carolina to children and all the way up to grandmas.
Oh, children and grandmas.
And grandmas.
Ooh.
Because, their STI rates on the rise.
Girl.
So grandmas need it.
Yes. So how did the Minority Sex Report come to be?
Good question. So me and Gabrielle were actually already doing sexuality education within North Carolina. And we saw that there was a need for sexuality educators that looked like us. So in high school, our sexuality educators were our gym teachers, so like white men, and it was only for like a day that we learned anything about sex. So I thought it was really important, and we thought it was really important that we provide representation within sexuality education. So with me being African American and Gabrielle being Native American, we wanted to make sure that people felt like they were represented. And there's also like a lot of people of color who are in sexuality education in North Carolina in general. So
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. So that's good. It's good that you have a good pool that you're swimming in.
Yeah.
A lot of good information that you can pull from.
yeah, that's my support people. So shout out to them, the Be Wise crew. They know who they are.
What's the state of sexual health in North Carolina?
Good question. So among adolescents, so in North Carolina, the sex ed curriculum has to be medically accurate. They have to go over HIV education. They can talk about same-sex relationships. But we see a lot of times that people aren't allowed to do like condom demonstrations.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I could talk about doing like the process of putting on a condom, but I can't actually demonstrate it. So people have gotten creative, like doing condom lineups, which I've done that before, where everyone gets a card and they get an order of what they're supposed to do. Or I know there was one teacher somewhere, not in North Carolina, that did like the how to put on a sock video. So if you haven't seen that, you should watch that. So how to put on a sock, because he couldn't teach students how to put on a condom, but their teen pregnancy rates were high. But in North Carolina, our teen pregnancy rates have been decreasing since 1990. So obviously that means a lot of people are doing great work. But overall, I think we have a great sex ed curriculum for the most part, and it does vary by county. We are in the Bible Belt, as they call it, so it's still the South. So there's a lot of restrictions depending on what school system it is.
Okay. So when we talk about sexuality, people usually think that sexuality is just condoms and birth control, but it expands a whole lot more than that. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so in my personal research, I'm working on my PhD in public health, and we talk a lot about sexualities being a broad umbrella, right? So most of the time, especially for people of color, I would say Black women, researchers tend to focus on HIV prevention, STI prevention, and pregnancy prevention, but forget the other aspects such as like sexualization, intimacy, sensuality, so those are things that aren't necessarily as focused on. And even like creating autonomy. So a lot of times they focus on autonomy as far as like condom negotiation, but not just being autonomous and saying like, this is what I want in my partnerships and things like that. So I think it's really important to expand that. And I think when we begin to expand that, then we can begin to focus on pleasure more, because most sex ed curriculums don't incorporate pleasure. I know there's one curriculum that's like pilot testing a pleasure lesson right now. So that would be awesome. It would be for high schoolers, but right now there's not really that many curriculums that focus on sexual pleasure. And I would say even at the college level, like I teach at the college level, and there's not a lot of focus on pleasure. Like when I told my students we're going to talk about pleasure, they're like, oh, what? Should I have signed up for this class? So I think it's really important to have that conversation, because obviously if they're like 19 to 21 and have never had that conversation, then it is affecting them in some way.
For sure. So we come from the prevention aspect of, I'm going to teach you how to put on a condom so that way you don't get pregnant and you don't get HIV or an STI. How do we approach, say, putting on a condom from an aspect of pleasure?
Well, I think there's a lot of research that says that putting on a condom like ruins the mood.
Yeah.
So they've done a lot of studies on that, like ruins the mood, whatever that means. So it ruins the mood, and it may be awkward if it's like someone you've never had sex with before, or if it is someone you're in a long-term relationship with. A lot of times you're less likely to use condoms with them. So a lot of times it focuses more on like eroticizing condoms. So, maybe put on a condom with your mouth, or different techniques you can do to make sure you're making condoms sexy. But there's also different types of condoms too. And so I think sometimes people don't know their options, right? So I think sometimes exposing people to the different options and brands of condoms and making it less awkward is also beneficial.
Nice. So I'm going to make us a left turn here on our journey. Did you always want to be in sexual health education?
No. I think if somebody would have told me like when I was 18, this is what I would have been doing, I would have been like, interesting. Probably because I didn't know it was a career. Like I said, because I was from a small town called Wendell, North Carolina, and we didn't necessarily, that just sounds small.
Yeah.
And we didn't necessarily like have sexuality educators, right? So one thing that I do think really quick that is beneficial though is that for students that are majoring in physical education, they do have to take my human sexuality class, because in the future they will have to teach sex education. So I think that's pretty awesome that they have to do that. But no, I wanted to be a nurse, but then I hated biology and chemistry, so I got out.
Yeah, that chemistry will weed you out every time.
It got me. So then I majored in human development and family studies and focused on adolescent development because I love adolescents.
Yeah.
And but if I could have any other job, I would be a math teacher.
Would you?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
High school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So math is your thing.
Yeah.
You get jiggy
with math, with stats.
You get jiggy with stats. I'm here for it. Okay. So you said you were pursuing your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what is going to be kind of like your field of study? What are you passionate about for this degree?
Yeah. So coming from a background that isn't public health, so my background is in adolescent development, and I feel like I've realized there's other things that impacts people's sexual decision making. And so I wanted to make sure that within my degree, when I'm focusing on sexuality education or just like sexual behaviors in general, that I'm focusing on these other aspects. So a lot of my research right now is focusing more on communication between peers. So like if I'm in college, what do I talk to my peers about and how does that affect my sexual behaviors? There's a lot of research already on partner communication. So I really was more interested in the peer aspect and the social media aspect and how it affects communication among Black women. And then also my research in the past used to focus on hookup culture. So this idea of like, what is hookup culture? Which, I mean, still if you ask 15 college students, they'll all give you a different answer. But seeing how that affects Black college students. So are they participating? Are they not? Why or why not? So that was an interesting study that I did a long time ago. But yeah, I want to make sure that when we're developing curriculums, we're not just focusing on prevention, but incorporating other aspects such as like communication and pleasure.
Nice. So in the future, what do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up?
I know, that tough question. Some days I believe I want to be a professor. Some days I think I just want to focus on research. I think my ultimate goal would be to develop a sex ed curriculum. So that's like ultimate goal.
Oh, you do like stats.
Yeah, so anything's possible. So yeah, definitely to do that, but then also to focus on evaluation. So right now there's a lot of sex ed curriculums that are focusing on people of color, but they haven't been evaluated, so they're technically not evidence-based, like according to like the nation or the state that they might be in, so they can't get grant funding for other organizations to implement it. And part of that problem is like you have to have money to do an evaluation. So I think it's really important to do evaluations on the smaller sex ed programs that people are doing that are extremely successful. I know there's a lot of sex ed programs and organizations for Native American people, even for young Black women that I've read about, but because it's not evidence-based, it's not implemented. And so I think that's actually doing a disservice. Like we need to make sure that if these are great things that people are doing, that we can, spread it out to everyone else.
So you said the Minority Sex Report, y'all are bloggers. Y'all go out and you do workshops and such too?
Yeah, so we do workshops. Gabrielle has actually facilitated a workshop at a church.
Ooh.
Well, her home church too.
Okay.
So that was fun.
That's how you get in there.
Yeah, her grandpa was in the audience, so even better. Shout out to Papa. So we do workshops on college campuses. We've done workshops for sororities. We do workshops within the community. We're doing a health fair in a couple of weeks in Raleigh. So that would be really awesome to get out in the community and do stuff. We're really big on like community health education. So not like just sitting in a high tower with all this information, but making sure we're going out and teaching people about various things.
So what is Minority Sex Report going to be when it grows up?
Oh gosh. Well, we're looking for guest bloggers, so that's something. But I think we want to make sure that, you know, me and Gabrielle realize that we have different identities, right? So we all focus on like intersecting identities, right? So it's not just our race that makes us, but it's other identities that we may have as well. And so we want to make sure that when we're bringing other guest bloggers to the table, that they have some of those intersecting identities. So right now we are looking for guest bloggers. So if you go to our website, www.theminoritysexreport.com, you will see a tab that says submit a post. And you can write something about reproductive justice or anything that you feel like may have impacted you and your intersecting identities. But I think one thing we want to make sure is that people have the space to, one, learn more information about sexual health and sexuality in general, and two, to feel like they were represented at some point in their life by something. And if it's us, then that's great, you know. But if it's other websites, that's cool too. But we'd rather it be us. So just making sure that we're adding more identities.
Nice. Cool. So we've got your website. Can we find the Minority Sex Report anywhere else on the internet?
Yes. So we are on Instagram at the Minority Sex Report, and we're on Twitter at the M Sex Report.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Shemeka, for coming on SexualiTea. Shout outs to you, Gabby. Don't worry. We're going to do another interview with both halves of the Minority Sex Report. So you will get to meet her. She's just as dope as Shemeka. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. If you know somebody or if you want to be featured on SexualiTea, make sure you send an email to honestlynae@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. If you have any other questions for MSR, go ahead and write them down in the comments, or you can find them on any other social media. I'll go ahead and I'll put those links below. And I will see y'all later. Bye.